When we talk about climate action, it's pretty easy to focus on what we can do as individuals. But what about the big guys, the massive, complex industries that literally power our world? Today, we're going to crack the code on how these giants are tackling the huge challenge of decarbonization. We're breaking down a real-world strategic plan that shows how to turn these sustainability challenges into some serious strategic opportunities.
All right, so here's how we're going to dive in. First, we'll get a handle on the problem itself. Then, we'll unpack the four-part solution they can use, check out the step-by-step blueprint for making change happen, see the tech that makes it all work, and finally, look at how companies can deal with those emissions that are just super hard to get rid of.
So, first things first, let's set the stage. Because to really appreciate the solutions, you've got to understand the massive pressures pushing these industries to completely rethink how they do business. We see that corporate climate pledges all the time, right? But going from a nice press release to actual real-world change, well, that's a whole other story. It's incredibly complex. So what's really going on behind the scenes that makes this so tough?
It's really a perfect storm. On one side, you've got all this external pressure. You have investors demanding action, customers voting with their wallets, and governments rolling out new rules in carbon taxes. But then on the other side, there's this huge internal problem. There just aren't enough people with the right know-how to handle this new world. It's a massive skills gap.
So with a problem that has so many moving parts, how do you even start to tackle it? Well, the key isn't some single magic silver bullet. It's about building an integrated system, an ecosystem really, where all the pieces work together to create something much, much bigger.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. The core idea here is synergy. A great business plan is one thing, but it's kind of useless if it's not being fed by real-time data from your technology. And that data, it's not much help unless you have the digital tools to analyze it and make sense of it. It's this constant feedback loop between the parts that makes the whole thing actually work.
And this lays it out perfectly. These are the four pillars holding the whole thing up. Number one, you need the big picture strategy. Number two, you need the actual hardware, the sensors and analyzers in the field to get good data. 3, you need the software and digital platforms to crunch the numbers. And 4, you need a smart plan for the emissions you just can't get rid of yet.
Okay, let's drill down into that first pillar, the blueprint. This is where the rubber meets the road. It's where those big, ambitious promises you see in headlines have to become a real nuts and bolts plan that everyone in the company can actually follow. So, how do you do it?
So the most important thing here is that you can't just guess your way through this. This framework makes it a methodical process. And it all starts with a brutally honest look in the mirror. You have to know exactly where you're starting from. What are your emissions right now? What are you capable of? Without that baseline, any target you set is just a fantasy. But once you have it, you can build a real strategy, a detailed roadmap, and then roll it out everywhere.
A brilliant plan is one thing, but let's be honest, it's pretty much useless without accurate data to guide it. And that brings us to the tech, the real backbone of this entire transformation.
And this is the absolute foundation of the entire effort. If you don't have precise, real-time measurements coming directly from your pipes, your smokestacks, your processes, you're flying blind. You're just guessing. You can't make smart decisions, you can't track your progress, and you definitely can't prove you're making a difference.
And this is where things get super specific. We are talking about highly specialized industrial gear. For example, in an oil refinery, you might use what's called a tape analyzer to sniff out hydrogen sulfide to protect really expensive equipment. Or for natural gas, you'd use a gas chromatograph to make sure the quality is right for billing. In wastewater treatment, you're using a TSS analyzer to optimize how many chemicals you use. Each tool gives you one critical piece of the puzzle.
And having this data has a huge immediate impact. Get this, by using precision electronics on gas meters, companies can slash their unaccounted gas losses, which are basically leaks, by as much as 30%. That's a perfect example of a win-win. You fix an environmental problem and end up saving a ton of money. But look, even with the best tech and the most efficient operations, some emissions are just incredibly hard to eliminate right now. So what do you do about those? Well, that's where the final pillar of this whole strategy comes into play. So when it comes to dealing with these leftover emissions, companies have some interesting choices. They can go the DIY route and develop their own carbon reduction projects from scratch. It's high control, but also high risk. Or they can act more like an investor, putting money into existing projects, like reforestation, to get both carbon credits and a financial return. But in a lot of cases, the smartest play isn't to just pick one. It's to build a blended portfolio, kind of like you would with your personal investments. By mixing some internal projects, some strategic partnerships, and some direct investments, a company can balance its risk, its cost, and the kind of impact it wants to make.
It just creates a much more robust strategy overall.
And when you look at the returns, it becomes crystal clear that this is about way more than just feeling good. Yeah, there's direct financial return. But check out the value in risk mitigation. We're talking about avoiding potentially massive carbon taxes down the road. You add that to the extra value you get from having a stellar brand reputation, and you realize this isn't a cost center. It's a core business strategy.
So ultimately, when you bring it all together, the strategy, the tech, the market savvy, the goal is to chase a vision where business success and environmental health aren't in conflict. The idea is to fuse operational excellence with environmental leadership and really create a new way for industries to succeed.
And that really leaves us with the big question, doesn't it? As all these pressures to decarbonize just keep growing and growing, is this kind of all-in, data-driven model the only real path forward? Is this the new playbook for how every major industry is going to have to operate if they want to not just survive, but actually lead?